This is Channel 4, KNBC, Los Angeles.
This is the KNBC News Service with Tom Brokaw.
This is the KNBC News Service with Paul Moyer and Ross Porter and Kelly Lang. Now, Paul Moyer.
Good evening, everybody. As we've been saying all week on this program, Tom Brokaw is on special assignment tonight. He'll be back Monday night at 11 o'clock. President Nixon went on nationwide television tonight to announce new ground rules that will lead to what they call Phase 4 economic game plan for the United States. Here is part of what the president said.
This is the KNBC News Service with Tom Brokaw and Ross Porter and Kelly Lang. Now, Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. A lot of things aren't showing up tonight, including our theme music. Marlon Brando decided that he would rather go to Wounded Knee, South Dakota than to the Academy Awards. At least that's the word from the young Indian woman who appeared for Brando tonight, as it was announced that he had received the Oscar for Best Actor. The woman is Sacheen Littlefeather, an Apache. Speaking for Brando, she said the actor would refuse the Oscar because of the treatment of the American Indian in motion pictures, in television reruns, and because of the recent happenings at Wounded Knee. Ms. Littlefeather was met mostly by silence and some boos and applause from the Academy audience. Later, she discussed with KNBC's John Marshall Marlon Brando's protest tonight.
This is the KNBC News Service sign-off edition for Tuesday, the 22nd of May. The time in 20 seconds, 1:21 in the morning. The Watergate hearings resume today at 7 a.m. KNBC will carry it live. Convicted conspirator James McCord will be questioned about his testimony last Friday. Sources say Senate investigators have found discrepancies in the testimony. John Caulfield, whom McCord said delivered an offer for executive clemency in exchange for his silence, is scheduled to follow McCord. Richard Helms, former CIA director, says H.R. Haldeman and John Ehrlichman ordered the CIA to help block the Watergate investigation. CIA records show that the two men used the president's name to ask the CIA to discourage the FBI from investigating presidential campaign funds channeled through Mexico. Helms, now ambassador to Iran, is testifying before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to clear himself of any wrongdoing. The Senate Judiciary Committee will vote on the nomination of Elliot Richardson to the Attorney General's post. The vote ends 5 days of hearings on Richardson and his choice for Special Watergate Prosecutor Archibald Cox. Cox says he'll follow the investigation no matter where it leads it, and is satisfied that he will be able to be independent in his investigation.
Well, I would...
This is the KNBC News Service sign-off edition. It's the 7th of February. The time, 1 minute and 17 seconds after 1 o'clock in the morning. The largest demonstration in the history of Northern Ireland took place Sunday without any of the anticipated violence. About 20,000 took part in the 30-minute march in the border town of Newry. Here is a report. This is the KNBC News Service with Paul Moyer. Ross Porter with the Bold Days Eve report. And Kelly Lang answers the meteorological question, will it rain in our parade? Here again, Paul Moyer.
Pasadena's Day in the national spotlight is almost here. New Year's Day means, well, you know what it means, Tournament of Roses, the Rose Bowl game, and the parade and the like. And the prospect of seeing that parade has turned Pasadena into a virtual campground tonight.
This is the KNBC News Service with Paul Moyer. Ross Porter along later with film highlights from tonight's action at Dodger Stadium. And Kelly Lang with the weather for Southern California. Now here again, Paul Moyer.
Edmund Brown Jr. and Houston Flournoy, both candidates for governor here in California, were highly visible today, and so was another well-known California politician. Jerry Brown won support from not totally unexpected quarters, although
guessing ability on The Price is Right tonight at 7:30. Good morning. This is the KNBC News Service sign-off edition for Thursday, May the 15th. In the news this morning, the Cambodian government surrenders the U.S. merchant ship it had captured, together with all its crew. A massive jailbreak in Chicago, and Ray Duncan introduces the 30-passenger Volkswagen. Now the details. After a tense and uncertain day of troop landings and other military operations, Cambodia surrendered the 39 American crewmen of the freighter Mayaquez after U.S. Marines captured the ship itself. President Ford went on the air a few hours ago with this statement.
This is the KNBC News Service with Don Harris, with a report on the Soviet-American summit and the new arms agreement, and Boyd Mattson with films of today's come-from-behind Rams win. Once again, Don Harris.
President Ford came home from the Soviet summit meeting tonight, and he announced that our two countries have reached a tentative agreement on limiting strategic arms. There was a big crowd gathered at Andrews Air Force Base, that's just outside Washington, and they listened as the president described the accord. He said it would limit the military competition, at least for the next 10 years.
This is the KNBC News Service with John Schubeck. Ross Porter with action highlights from tonight's Trojans and Lakers games. And Kelly Lang with news of severe weather in the nation's midsection. Here again, John Schubeck.
As reported here last night, President Ford will ask the Congress to cut taxes by $15 billion this year. Mr. Ford's tax plans were confirmed late today by the Oregon Congressman Al Ullman. He is the new chairman of the Tax Writing House Ways and Means Committee. Ullman declined to spell out details, but after meeting with the president this evening, he said his committee now has the ingredients for an early tax relief package.
This is News Center 4, prepared each day by Southern California's largest television news staff, and reported by Tricia Toyota, with Kelly Lang, Bob Abernathy, David Horowitz, and Stu Nahan. Now for the vacationing Jess Marlowe, here is Tricia Toyota.
Good evening, everyone. The top news story this evening is a diagnosis of terminal cancer for Senator Hubert Humphrey. Doctors made the discovery today during surgery to remove an obstruction in his bowel. They found a malignant tumor on Humphrey's pelvic bone. NBC's Al Johnson has more.
This is News Center 4, the 11 p.m. edition with John Schubeck, Stu Nahan Sports, Pat Sajak Weather, and Robin Groth with the Nightside Report. Now here is John Schubeck.
Thank you very much.
This is News Center 4, the 11 p.m. edition with John Schubeck, Stu Nahan Sports, Pat Sajak Weather, and Robin Groth with the Nightside Report. Now here is John Schubeck.
Thank you very much, Don Stanley. Good evening, everybody. The death toll continues to climb tonight from a spectacular head-on collision of two passenger buses in Mexico last night. There are now as many as 42 dead, another 40 injured. That crash happened on Highway 2, about 25 miles east of the border town of San Luis. Two Mexican passenger buses smashed into one another when they tried, one of them at least did, to avoid hitting a stalled truck.
This is News Center 4, the 11 p.m. edition, with Tricia Toyota and Warren Alney, Stu Nahan Sports, and Pat Sajak Weather. Now here is Warren Alney.
Good evening. John Schubeck is ill tonight. A big story at this hour, the arrival of Pope John Paul II in the Philippines. 1.5 million people welcomed him at Manila Airport. This, of course, after the apparent assassination attempt earlier today in Karachi, Pakistan. A bomb exploded in an outdoor stadium shortly before the Pope got there. The only person killed, the man carrying the bomb.
This is News Center 4, the 11 p.m. edition with John Schubeck and Tricia Toyota, Stu Nahan Sports, Warren Alney's special series on L.A. youth gangs. Dick Shoemaker and Paul Dandridge report live on the hijacking and hostage drama that ended at the L.A. airport tonight. Now here is Tricia Toyota.
Good evening, everyone. And that hijacking attempt did end at LAX nearly 12 hours after it began.
Tricia Toyota. Jim Thomas. Stu Nahan, Sports. Kevin O'Connell, Weather. Observer Ron Hendren. This is News for LA at 5.
I want you to come east on Ventura Boulevard and then turn north on Balboa, up to the Ventura Freeway, and start heading east.
Tricia Toyota, John Deere, Stu Nahan, Sports, Kevin O'Connell, Weather, and Nightside reporters, Kirsty Wilde and Pete Pepper. This is News for LA, Nightside.
Good evening.
News for LA, the late Sunday edition with Frank Cruz and Carol Hutchison. Fritz Coleman with the weather, and Fred Rogan with a special expanded Sunday edition of Sports for LA. Now, News for LA at 11.
Good evening.
Kirsty Wilde, John Deere. News for LA at 4. Number 1 in Southern California. Fred Rogan, Sports. Fritz Coleman, Weather. David Horowitz, Close-Up. This is News for LA at 4.
Kirsty Wilde. John Beard. Fred Rogan, Sports. Fritz Coleman, Weather. News for LA, number 1 at 4. Now, Tricia Toyota, Nick Clooney, Stu Nahan, Sports, Kevin O'Connell, Weather, Jack Perkins, Cover Story. This is News for LA, Nightside.
Good evening, everybody.
KNBC Los Angeles. Good morning, everyone. In the news this morning, the scare over cyanide-laced Tylenol continues to keep authorities busy around the Chicago area and around the country. There have now been 7 deaths linked to the poisoned pills. A group of Amerasian children are due in Los Angeles later today to be reunited with their American fathers. And in sports, the Angels celebrated with champagne. They're in the American League playoffs, but the Dodgers will have to wait until later today to find out where they stand. The Tylenol nightmare is not yet over. Another person died Saturday after taking some Tylenol, bringing the total number of known deaths to 7. The Tylenol, as with the others, contained cyanide. Federal health officials say the local distribution of the suspect extra-strength Tylenol capsules appears to be very limited, but just in case, there are the numbers considered suspect. These numbers appear on the box and the bottle of the capsules. 1801 MA. MC2880 and 1910 MD. No cyanide has been found in any bottles of the capsules taken from stores in Southern California. We now rejoin a broadcast of the 11 p.m. edition of News for LA.
Now, John Beard, Kirsty Wilde, Kevin O'Connell, Weather, Fred Rogan, Sports. News for LA, number 1 at 4.
Good afternoon, everybody. A strong earthquake jolted a wide area of Central California and Nevada this morning. It caused rock slides and kicked some items off shelves as it rolled from the mountains to the coast.
Nick Clooney, Tricia Toyota, News for LA. Kevin O'Connell, Weather. Stu Nahan, Sports. Nightside reporters Carla Aragon and Phil Schumann. This is News for LA, Nightside.
Good evening, everyone. 5 people were killed tonight when a Learjet taking off from San Francisco International Airport crashed and burst.
This is News for LA with Nick Clooney, Kelly Lang, Kevin O'Connell, Weather, Stu Nahan, Sports, Jack Perkins cover story, and David Sheehan entertainment. Now news for LA Nightside.
Good evening, everyone. Right now, the vast majority of the votes from today's primary election are still being counted, but one major race is apparently over.
Kirsty Wilde, John Beard, Fred Rogan, sports, Fritz Coleman, weather, and Carol Hutchison, health. Channel 4 News, number 1 at 4. Kelly Lang, Nick Clooney, Stu Nahan, sports, Fritz Coleman, weather, David Sheehan, entertainment, and David Horowitz, close-up. Channel 4 News at 5. Kirsty Wilde, John Beard, Fred Rogan, sports, Fritz Coleman, weather, and Doug Kriegel, Money Matters. Channel 4 News at 6. Good evening. Nick Clooney, Kelly Lang, Fritz Coleman, weather, Stu Nahan, sports, Jack Perkins, cover story, and David Sheehan, entertainment. Channel 4 News, number 1 at 11.
Good evening.
Linda Alvarez, Bill Lagatuda, Christopher Nance, weather, and Andy Lascano, sports. Channel 4 News, weekend.
Good evening.
Carla Aragon, Ken Shocknick, Christopher Nance, weather, Fred Rogan, sports. This is Today in LA.
John Beard, Kirsty Wilde, Fritz Coleman, weather, Fred Rogan, sports, and Doug Kriegel, Money Matters. Channel 4 News at 6.
Good evening, everybody. Former school teacher
Kirsty Wilde, John Beard, Christopher Nance, weather, Fred Rogan, sports, David Horowitz, fight back, and Steve Gendell, health. Channel 4 News at 4.
Beverly.
Keith Morrison, Kelly Lang, Fritz Coleman, weather, Fred Rogan, sports, David Horowitz, fight back, David Sheehan, entertainment, and Jess Marlowe, commentary. Channel 4 News at 5.
Good evening, Lee.
Jess Marlowe, Colleen Williams, Fritz Coleman, weather, Fred Rogan, sports, and David Sheehan, entertainment. Channel 4 News, number 1 in Southern California.
Good evening.
John Beard, Kelly Lang, Fritz Coleman, weather, Fred Rogan, sports, and Jess Marlowe, cover story. Channel 4 News, lights on, number 1 at 11. Keith Morrison, Kelly Lang, Fritz Coleman, weather, Fred Rogan, sports, Jess Marlowe, cover story, and David Sheehan, entertainment. Channel 4 News, Nightside, number 1 at 11.
Good evening. Top story at the 11th hour. The emotional aftershock of the earthquake still causing many to live in fear. Hundreds of people staying in Red Cross shelters, in backyards, in parks, And tonight, Channel 4's Bill Agatuda reports from Pico Rivera, where some people would rather face the unknown outdoors than inside their own homes.
Live in Southern California, this is Channel 4 News at 11.
While watching Channel 4 News, coverage you can count on. Now, live in Southern California, this is Channel 4 News at 6. Southern California's #1 station for news, the Channel 4 News. Now, Paul Moyer, Kelly Lang, Fritz Coleman Weather, Fred Rogan Sports, Southern California's #1 newscast, the Channel 4 News at 11. Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Kent Shocknick, Kathy Vara, Christopher Nance AccuWeather, and Paul Johnson Metro Traffic. This is Today in LA, Southern California's #1 morning news. Good. Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Kent Shocknick, Kathy Vara, Christopher Nance AccuWeather, Southern California's #1 news, the Channel 4 News at 11 a.m. Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Kent Shocknick, Kathy Vara, and Paul Johnson AccuWeather, Southern California's #1 news, the Channel 4 News at 11 a.m. Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Kelly Lang, Chuck Henry, Fritz Coleman AccuWeather, Fred Rogan Sports, Southern California's #1 news, the Channel 4 News at 4. Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Chuck Henry, Michelle Ruiz, Fritz Coleman AccuWeather, and Fred Rogan Sports. This is the Emmy-winning Channel 4 News at 4.
We start off here.
Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Kelly Lang, Chuck Henry, Fritz Coleman AccuWeather, Fred Rogan Sports, Southern California's #1 news, the Channel 4 News at 4:30. Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Paul Moyer, Colleen Williams, Fritz Coleman AccuWeather, Fred Rogan Sports, Southern California's #1 news, the Channel 4 News at 5. Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Paul Moyer, Colleen Williams, Fritz Coleman AccuWeather, Fred Rogan Sports, Southern California's #1 news, the Channel 4 News at 5:30. Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Chuck Henry, Kelly Mack, Fritz Coleman AccuWeather, Fred Rogan Sports, Southern California's #1 news, the Channel 4 News at 6. Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Paul Moyer, Colleen Williams, Fritz Coleman AccuWeather, Fred Rogan Sports, Southern California's #1 news, the Channel 4 News at 11. Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Jim Giggins, Tracy Savage, and Angie Austin AccuWeather. This is Today in LA Weekend, Southern California's #1 morning news. Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Rick Chambers, Diane Diaz, Paul Johnson AccuWeather, Carlos Del Valle Sports, Southern California's #1 weekend news, the Channel 4 News at 5. Live from NBC4, the station working for you, Rick Chambers, Diane Diaz, Paul Johnson AccuWeather, Carlos Del Valle Sports, Southern California's #1 weekend news, the Channel 4 News at 5:30. Live from your home for the 2000 Olympic Games, Colleen Williams, Paul Moyer, Fritz Coleman AccuWeather, and Fred Rogan Sports. This is the Channel 4 News at 5:30. Coverage you can count on. Live from your home for the 2000 Olympic Games, Kelly Mack, Chuck Henry, Fritz Coleman AccuWeather, and Fred Rogan Sports. This is the Channel 4 News at 6. Coverage you can count on. Live, the Channel 4 News at 5. Paul Moyer, Colleen Williams, Fritz Coleman AccuWeather, and Fred Rogan Sports. Coverage you can count on.
It is live from NBC4. This is Today in L.A.
Good morning. It is live. The Channel 4 News at 11. Paul Moyer, Colleen Williams, Fritz Coleman AccuWeather, and Fred Rogan Sports. Coverage you can count on.
Live from NBC4. Kelly Mack, David Cruz, and Christopher Nance AccuWeather. This is the Channel 4 News at 11 a.m.
Live from NBC4, this is the Channel 4 News at 5:30. You're watching the Channel 4 News at 11 with Paul Moyer, Colleen Williams, Fritz Coleman Weather, and Fred Rogan Sports. From NBC4, the Southland's #1 late news, the Channel 4 News at 11. Live from NBC4, this is the Channel 4 News at 5.
And we begin
live from NBC4, this is the Channel 4 News at 6.
And here at 6 o'clock,
live from NBC4, this is the Channel 4 News at 6. Live from NBC4, this is the Channel 4 News at 11.
Tonight, a homicide.
Live from NBC4, the Southland's #1 late news, the Channel 4 News at 11.
Southern California emergency room certainly.
Live, you're watching Today in L.A.
Good morning, it's
Live, you're watching NBC4 LA News at 5. Live, you're watching NBC4 LA News at 6. Live, you're watching NBC4 LA News at 11. NBC4 News at 6 starts now.
You're watching NBC4. Here's what's happening today in LA.
While you were sleeping, police say a young boy helped rob a Pizza Hut in Placentia. What a victim says the child and a man got away with. Good morning, everybody. I'm Whit Johnson.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Michelle Valles in for Daniela Guzman. More on that story in just a moment. But first, let's get a check of your forecast with meteorologist Shana Mendiola, who's here in Orange because it's going to be a sunny and bright day.
Yeah, I just thought I'd dress the part, right? It's going to be a hot Wednesday. It is summertime. Good morning, everyone. It's your Wednesday. It's hump day, and it's going to be the hottest day of the week. So let's get over this. We can go ahead and see some relief from the heat as we head into your weekend. And if you have any weekend plans, it is looking nice. But today, as you head out the door, bring the water, bring the sunscreen and the sunglasses. You're going to need it.
NBC4's Today in LA continues at 6:30.
Well, you may want to throw in a windbreaker this morning before heading out the door because you could encounter this. Strong wind gusts continue to blow through parts of Southern California. Good morning, everyone. I'm Michelle Valles.
And I'm Whit Johnson in for Michael Brownlee. I got to get my hands on one of those windbreakers. Let's get right.
Developing news out of Huntington Park, where crews are going on their 6th hour fighting a stubborn fire. A business destroyed, a school day disrupted, and investigators now trying to figure out what caused it all.
Also, a hit and run, crashes. It's become a plaguing problem on our road, but there is new aggressive pushes to reverse the trend.
I'm Major Durambula live at Huntington Beach, where we have a brand new Halloween experience we want to share with you. It is scary, it is family friendly, and for the first time it's being held at this historic site. A live report coming up.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carolyn Johnson.
And I'm Kathy Barr in for Michael Brownlee. The news at noon starts now.
You're watching the NBC4 News at Noon.
And we begin with that developing story in Huntington Park, where firefighters are in jail
New at 6 o'clock, Donald Trump in Los Angeles, what he just said about Mexican immigrants at a news conference there, and the angry reaction just outside.
Double devastation. Investigators are asking the owner of this business what happened right before his liquor store went up in flames.
And emergency measures, an update on an I-team investigation on surviving in the wake of an earthquake. The new rule in the works that you'll be happy to hear about. Good evening, everyone. I'm Colleen Williams in for Carolyn Johnson.
And I'm Chuck Henry. The news at 6 o'clock on this Friday begins right now.
This is NBC4 News at 6.
Presidential candidate Donald Trump making waves across Southern California. Protesters are calling "Dump the Trump" in Brentwood following his comments about Mexican immigrants. And now in Beverly Hills, the presidential candidate came at the issue head on during a news conference. You saw it right here, firing back.
Rutgers University disagree. They say bacteria can contaminate your food instantaneously, so it doesn't matter how fast you pick it up.
Earlier I said at my house it's 30-second rule.
That's a long rule.
Yeah, it just takes a lot for me to throw away food.
Yeah.
It's just like dust it off and you eat it.
It depends on what it is. Like if it's an M&M, maybe. If it's a ravioli, goes in the trash.
Yeah, the ravioli's kind of gross.
The saucier, the worse.
And it also depends on like where it falls. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
At a stadium, so good. It's just about 6 a.m. right now. Here's what's happening today in LA this morning.
And we're following a developing story right now. The search for a road rage shooter. A family riding in their SUV comes under fire in Pomona. What happened and who police are looking for this morning?
The ref just got punched in the face by a player. Wow.
Knocked out cold. A referee is punched by a local college football player. We're going to explain why his school is defending him this morning.
And just in time for football season, how this beer mug solves a problem most people probably didn't know they had.
This is Today in LA at 6.
They didn't know they had it, but now they can't live without it,
Exactly,
right?
that's right. Just like Apple does.
Exactly.
You know?
Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Daniela Guzman.
I'm Wade Johnson. It is Monday, September 12th. The Rams play their first game tonight.
Exciting.
Football season is underway. Let's get to meteorologist Crystal Egger because we've got some... For folks who are out there tailgating this weekend, the weather was fantastic.
Yeah, it was still summer weather, still warm. Now we're gonna cool it down, feel like fall for a couple days. We have some big changes on the way, especially tomorrow. Light rain in the forecast. It has been a long time. Let me show you what's happening on the satellite. We're waking up to clouds this morning, some patchy fog all the way to the inland valleys. We're going to be cooler today by 5 to 10 degrees. A lot of us are in the 70s. Tomorrow, even cooler. Your full forecast is straight ahead. Let's go to Shauna.
And good morning, everyone. A look at your westbound drive now on the 210 between the 15 and 57. That is slowed down to about 32 minutes. A little bit faster on the 10, so that's the way to go. About 21 minutes right now in that direction. And on the westbound 60 between the 15 and 57 this morning, about 33 minutes. We'll have another look at your traffic and weather on the way. Back to you, Whit and Daniela.
Chana, thank you. We're following breaking news right now in Glendale. That's where an MTA bus has crashed into a delivery truck. This happened on the on-ramp to the 134 freeway at Brand Boulevard. 3 people aboard the bus were...
A bear on the loose. Officials have been tracking this guy for hours. We're going to tell you where ahead.
Also heating up, a Supreme Court confirmation far from a sure thing. Both the nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, and the woman accusing him of sexual assault will testify in public.
And the Emmy goes to Matt. From a proposal to fashion on the gold carpet, plus new winners break through a star-studded night during the Primetime Emmy Awards in downtown LA.
Today in LA at 4 starts now.
Some of that partying still going on this morning.
Probably, yeah. It's still early, 4 o'clock, or late for them, I guess. Yeah. Good morning, Tits. Tuesday, September 18th. I'm Adrian Arambulo.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Daniela Guzman. We'll get to those stories in a moment. So let's check your forecast with meteorologist Shauna Mendiola. And it feels nice and cool out there. Just a couple more days till, summer ends.
We were talking about that earlier. Only 4 more days of summer, but it's already changing in the mornings. You can feel the cool air. And you can also just feel the crispness of just how it is outside. It is feeling nice. We'll continue the trend again on your Tuesday. Less cloud cover today. And that means more sunshine for your forecast and warmer temperatures by a degree or 2. So really not a big warm up, but it's going to feel beautiful out there. Temperatures in the 60s right now, 65 here in the valley. That's how it is for a majority of you. And then this afternoon, we're warming back.
NBC4 News at 11 a.m. starts now.
Right now, a woman shot and killed during a custody exchange outside of a police station. Now her ex-husband is in police custody. NBC4's Angie Crouch live at the Hawthorne Police Station with new details in this shooting. Angie.
Yeah, Michael, police say 31-year-old Jacob Munn is in custody here at the Hawthorne Police Station, being held on $2 million bail, awaiting transfer to LA County Jail, which we're told will take place tomorrow. Police say he used a shotgun to shoot and kill the mother of his 17-month-old son. Take a look behind me over here. You can see right here on the wall, right next to the front door of the Hawthorne Police Station, these holes in the wall. Police say this is where buckshot sprayed the wall.
Now at 4, a pursuit, a crash, and a shootout. What we've learned about the moments before deputies opened fire in Long Beach.
Plus, new details on that deadly shooting inside a Costco and the two very different stories emerging right now.
And a DWP alert. We reveal the red flags about fake employees and how to protect yourself.
NBC4 News at 4 starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carolyn Johnson.
And I'm Lolita Lopez in for Michael Brownlee today. It was a shootout on the streets of Long Beach. News Chopper 4 Alpha over the scene this morning as deputies with guns drawn took a pair into custody.
Now, since we first broke the news at 11 a.m., we've learned new details about those two men and why police were chasing them in the first place. NBC4's Angie Crouch is in Long Beach with the story for us. Angie.
Yeah, we just got an update from the Sheriff's Department. West Carson Street still shut down at this hour right at Santa Fe Avenue while they investigate that deputy-involved shooting. It took place around 10:30 this morning. Now, they're keeping us quite a distance from the scene where the crash occurred. This is maybe about a block and a half from here, but our chopper was overhead when this pursuit came.
Now at 11 o'clock, rallying in the face of fear. Bernie Sanders took the stage here in Southern California just hours after someone made a threat toward the event.
NBC4's Rick Montanez was at the event in Long Beach tonight, where some people say they were afraid to show up. Rick.
Colleen and Chuck, yeah, safety is certainly a concern out here tonight. Police say the man who made the threats against this rally posted bail and is out of jail. So one woman tells me that her family encouraged her not to come tonight.
Priceless jewelry pieces snatched in a heist. The burglars caught on camera breaking through the roof. We hear from the business owner who says what they took can't be replaced.
A reckless driver rips right through a residential street and kills an innocent person. Why neighbors say it's part of an ongoing problem.
Plus, coyote takeover. This pack of wild pups taking a permanent residence on an occupied property. A new look at where they're running loose.
This is NBC4 News at 5.
We began with that violent crash that claimed the life of an innocent victim and left 5 others hurt. This wreckage tossed across a San Fernando Valley intersection early this morning.
NBC4's Jean Kang talked to neighbors in North Hills who say crashes in that area are a growing problem.
This crash took the life